Adam, the response last year, the last time we did a Mass Torts Made Perfect program, the stories that you told about what your company was able to do were remarkable. And so I know we want to tell some of these same stories again, but what I always want to know is, what are the best viewer responses on new projects? What are people looking at right now?
It's really diverse. Right now we're still in TVM, but we've also been in it for the last 2 years. In fact, when everyone was starting to think now that TVM was really saturating, our recent work has shown that we're hitting cost per packets at under 2,000, which is outstanding considering our prior quoting ranges when attracting new firms was upwards of 2,500. You know, we're seeing cases right now really starting to catch legs in Invocana, IVC filter, and we're just starting to move on the bear hugger warming blanket.
If you were to look at emerging projects, and you just said, you know, if you're talking to the folks that are going to be watching this and you're giving advice, just like a stockbroker might give somebody advice on an emerging stock, what would the advice be?
Well, there's several others. First and foremost, make sure you believe in what you're getting into, but get out early. And I've said this in our last sit down, and I'll say it again, and I'll probably say it in the next one. That's one of the single most important things you can do.
Yeah, let's take a look at the spot, because this is, what I liked about this spot is this is a quality spot, and it's indicative of what you do. It's indicative of everything y'all turn out. So let's take a look.
This is an important medical announcement. For decades, the Bear Hugger Forced Air Warming Blanket has been widely used during surgical procedures to shorten recovery time and decrease the risk of excess bleeding. Use of forced air warming blankets during hip and knee surgery may increase the risk that contaminants enter the surgical field and cause infection. Call the Sentinel Group now for a free confidential consultation. You pay no fees unless we get a judgment in your favor.
As you noted, it has to start with what the viewer sees. We put a lot of thought and research and time into that. We have an in-house production team that helps produce those spots for us very quickly with adamant research and the other tools we need to make sure we're saying the right things and representing it properly. We meet daily to go over our campaigns, constantly looking at changes that we need to make, going over the metrics every single day to make sure we're hitting our campaign targets, to make sure the attorneys are getting exactly what they want. It's not a business that is low touch by any means. It's actually heavy touch, and it requires a firm that's willing to commit to do that, such as we do.
So Adam, you know, the biggest thing that people miss, and I'm always amazed at this, they spend so much money with a particular organization, they give them the money, and they say, well, you know, we got this many hits. But the real question comes down to, how many conversions did you get? Well, let's talk about Invocana in particular. The issue on Invocana is now, well, we're spending a lot of money, but we're not getting a lot of cases. I don't know if you're seeing that, but that is kind of the word that's out there. What's the difference between what you're doing and that attorney who may just say, you know, I'm spending a lot of money, we're doing the stuff we usually do, but we're not seeing the number of cases that actually we're signing up? What's your take on that?
I don't think they're turning over enough rocks. I think you've really got to be out there. With Invocana, we noticed a very, very slow start on the response side. People just were not calling, but that's not the first time we've seen cases start that way.
Give me some parallels of what you've seen in this kind of slow history before.
Well, I was just talking about how great the case economics are on TVM, and we've been in it for 2 years. But we thought TVM was going to be a total dog. We just didn't think it had any legs. It took over 6 to 8 weeks to start making the phone ring on that campaign. And now it's a monster. It's just getting to the right place. Where the consumers are sometimes takes a lot of coverage to find. And we even noticed this on Zofran. And as we have more time, it more often than not changes our belief in what a campaign's going to do. You're not always going to have Risperidals and Granuflos and Xareltos that are just immediate hits. You're going to have some slow baking campaigns that need to just settle out in the market for quite a bit of time.
So your company's devised kind of a history and a methodology of going after cases. It's different than other people. Now, I don't want you giving away trade secrets, but what are the important things that you would tell a young lawyer about what they need to be thinking about
They need to consider each company's individual success rate for case acquisition. They need to understand how far and wide that company can cover the entire country, whether or not that company is in some sort of strategic partnership or joint venture with an intake facility. You really need to have quality intake as a partner here that will give you that kind of spend to case acquisition week over week over week.
You know, two very good friends of mine, as a matter of fact, we're partners with them in several things, is Chase Givens. You know Chase.
Very
and
well.
Keith Givens. They're able to make comparisons because they handle big volume, they handle big volume call centers. And when they talk about what you do to get those cases in, they say there's some unique aspects to it. How would you describe those unique qualities?
There is something different about us, Mike, and it's relationships. We have relationships with our media that go so far and wide. I don't know on a one-to-one basis other companies that have what we have. We're talking about strategic partners, national networks, local cable, and so on. And these are deep-rooted relationships on grandfathered deals. But we also create relationships with our customers, the law firms. We understand what their objectives are. We take a vested interest in their success. Their success is our success. We get to know them. We're always checking in with them on cases. We work with them in any way. And I just don't know that there's a higher standard than what we present from the relationship side.
You know, this very program that is going on this week, Mass Torts Made Perfect, Keith Givens and myself with the National Trial Lawyers, Keith always believes that it is the company that has the original thought. It's the company, the entity that says, I want to do things different in a way much different the way than my competitors are doing it. That's what has allowed Mass Torts Made Perfect to flourish. That's what has made National Trial Lawyers flourish. And so now when people talk about your organization, they say they're different. But the question is, when you try to pin down what it is, they really can't tell you, and you think you land on the idea that it's relationships. The relationships that you have with the lawyers matter to you, and you try to make that work. Is that accurate?
Absolutely, and I certainly think there's subsets to that answer as well.
Tell me what they are.
Innovative thought. Just to break down our first interview, we reached out. We said, hey, I think you've got something here that we're really interested in with Ring of Fire. How about we sit down with you?
And you were, oddly enough, one of the out of all the
I'm not the first to attend MTMP.
Out of all the vendors, and I love all the vendors. They're just, most of them are my friends, and they've been great business partners with me. But I thought it was interesting that you saw that little niche and you said, well, let me go there. I think that's what it takes. Look, let me shift conversation here. If you're giving advice to a young law firm, and they don't have $100,000 or $200,000 on their own to be able to put together a campaign. But they need to do it, because if they don't do it, they can want to do mass torts all they want. But unless you have the ability to get out there with a company like yours, you can't really do that. What do you tell those young firms?
Make the investment. If this is an area of interest, find a way to make it work. Not everybody is going to start off with $1 million budgets. Not everyone's going to start off with $500,000, but there's always an entry point.
Is there anything about your company where you try to work in a kind of special way with maybe a co-op kind of situation where you put several firms together and you say, why don't you cooperatively put your money together and let's see if we can help?
Absolutely. Our system is designed for that. The other thing that makes us different is our technology and the ability to aggregate. We put all these different law firms together. Everybody gives us a different phone number, and we know how to target calls to them based on how they want it. And when their budget runs out, that spigot shuts off, and we just move to the next one. So there are ways to come in. If we're on an active campaign, just to use Xarelto, that is just raining down phone calls, it almost seems like we can never find enough lawyers to jump in. That's the kind of opportunity where you can come to us, and I could have you receiving cases within 24 hours notice.
That matters. You know, Adam, as we've been talking here, the theme about your company And I don't know whether we've just gotten here by accident or whether this is just such a strong theme that there's really something to it. But the theme is that you're different. And you've given us several reasons why you're different. What else would you add to that list if I said, what makes you so different from your competitors?
One of my favorite topics of the whole thing, and that's our relationship with our legal intake partner. They're based right here in the United States. They are solely focused on legal intake, and they are playing a very large part in many of our firms that are working with them conversion rates. The conversion rates have been game-changing.
One thing I've seen your company do I think is brilliant, and that is as you mentioned, there's only so much you can brand. In other words, you could be out there with Sentinel all day long, and you're only going to be able to brand so much.
Correct.
So what you've been able to do is you have Sentinel, then you have subgroups of Sentinel that is going after the market in different ways. Talk about that briefly, if you would.
We've become systematic at creating various house brands for any given campaign that we're getting into on the mass tort side. At one point, TVM had 9 different campaigns from us. Xarelto's probably got 4 to 5 live right now. It's always a function of scalability. There's really almost no roof to our ability to scale, to find every possible case out there that we can get. It's just a matter of what our law firms want, and then we figure out how to deliver it. Then you put that together with the intake center. So you have a constant tsunami of phone calls coming, of phone calls that are converting to cases, case acquisition costs that are beating the numbers we're hearing in the market day in and day out. It completes the picture of what I call this beast.
Adam, thanks. It's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you.